Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, finally to the latest edition of the Woke Bros. Of course, I'm Big Wos, aka Wazzy Lambre, joined as always by my brother out on the west side of Los Angeles, Nando Vila. Welcome back, my boy.
It feels good to be back. I missed you, man. Missed you.
Same.
Hope
Of
all is
course, I
well.
missed you guys as well. I missed the past few weeks because unfortunately on February the 20th, I lost my mom pretty suddenly and obviously very tragically. She passed away at the age of 74. Obviously super close to my mom, very influential in the person who I am, my morals, my values, basically all the shit that I believe in. I got from my mom. She was just a very wonderful, special person. With me, my siblings, my family members, we were able this past weekend to give her a nice send off. A lot of family flew in to pay their respects, and it was just dope to be around, my family, even under the terrible circumstances. But obviously, I'm gonna miss my mom. Just a very important person in my life, and not just to me. Like, she touched a lot of people. She was that kind of person, and so obviously we're gonna miss you. Rest in peace to my mom, Rose Therese LeConte. Forever missed. And yeah, and thank you everybody who reached out to me, man. On socials with well wishes. Obviously that shit means a lot. Was really, really, really heartfelt. Appreciate it. Obviously, my family appreciates all the well wishes, so appreciate you guys for that. That being said, we're back.
Yeah.
No real way to segue from the tragedy of death, but man, Ukraine and Russia is pretty much the only thing that's in the news these days, Nando. Like, there's literally nothing else that anyone is talking about or thinking about. And even me, like, it's my job to be up on the NBA, and I barely kept up with any of that stuff while I was out on bereavement. But I found myself, you know, paying attention to a lot of the rhetoric around Russia invading Ukraine, right? And man, so ill too. What I kept thinking about, and why I'm so fascinated by it, is that one, our good friend Daniel Bessner, who does the American Prestige podcast, which all they do is focus on foreign policy and foreign affairs, for weeks and weeks and weeks. Derek has basically been like, look, like, Putin has never really done anything this irrational. There's no reason to think that he's
Yeah.
going to do it this time. Maybe this is bluster. Maybe he wants some concessions about X, Y, and Z, but it's hard to believe that he's going to do something this destructive and irrational. It doesn't track with really anything that he's done in the past. And so, like, while Western media was frothing at the mouth immediately because that's what they always do around things related to war, most of the sort of level-headed people were like, he's not going to really do this. And as we got closer and closer and closer till he actually did the thing and invaded, everybody's kind of dumbfounded. And like, honestly, Nando, what I found most interesting about this is that nobody can figure out what's really truly motivating Putin, what he wants to get
Yeah.
out of this, what his aims. I just can't come up with good answers. And I was wondering where you were with all of that.
Yeah, I mean that's what's been so shocking about this is you're right. We've been talking about it for a while. We talked about it on our last pod that like there are certain things behind it and that there are kind of somewhat legitimate Russian security concerns. Like we don't have to like say whether they're justified or not, but it's the kind of thing that if you put yourself in their position, dangling a military alliance on to their neighbors is a hostile act. We would if Russia signed a military alliance with Mexico, or even attempted to like, or even dangled it as a possibility, we would invade Mexico the next day.
Yeah.
Um, but I think you're right that it caught a lot of people off guard because the scale of the invasion was something that is so insane because there is no good option for him now. Like he kind of has painted himself into a corner, um, in that there is no great out for him. Like if they're gonna fight this war, it looks like they're in for a long, messy counterinsurgency type war. much like the one we had in Afghanistan for 20 years, where it's like you kind of control the country, but you kind of don't at the same time. And then just people are just dying every day, slowly in this kind of low boil conflict as the native people of the country kind of rise up to defend the invaders. And that's kind of what's happening in Ukraine. It's the early days. It's really impossible to tell what the situation on the ground is and like how, whether Russia's going to do a quick victory or whether Ukraine's going to stand and defend. But it did seem like a totally irrational thing to do, given the pressures that we're on. And it's like, the effects are just like, they're mind boggling beyond the actual war. The sanctions that have come down are so extreme, that I don't know that he anticipated them, or if he was prepared to weather them. But he must have expected something dramatic in the wake of such a full scale invasion. But like, random shit. Like, for example, Russia is the largest wheat exporter in the world. Okay. Like no one exports more wheat to the world than Russia. For example, Egypt. I heard this on the Radio War Nerd podcast, which is also highly recommended. Egypt, random ass country not involved in the conflict, is the largest importer of wheat in the world, all of which comes from Russia, or most of which comes from Russia. Right. This conflict and the sanctions on Russia are going to cause a huge spike in bread prices in Egypt, not a very stable country, right. You can imagine the ripple effects of something. This is just one example, and there's like dozens of other ones like that. Like Russia, for example, exports a lot of the world's fertilizers. That's just like what they do. They export fertilizers, like almost like around between 20% and a third of the world's various different types of fertilizers get exported from Russia. So that's going to cause, prices of food all around the world to go up, and that usually causes huge instability all over the world. Not to mention in a place like the Middle East, where it's always kind of unstable. This conflict is going to cause a huge refugee crisis, and that's going to destabilize all of the countries of Europe, because they're going to welcome in these Ukrainian refugees, and then you got to do something with them. And trust me, people don't like the French and the Italians and the Germans, and
they're not fond of people from that part of the world at all.
No. Right now, they're all standing tall with Ukraine. But like in 2 years, when there's like, a bunch of Ukrainians in their neighborhoods, they're not going to be as happy about it. And it's going to warp all the politics of Europe dramatically. So many things, like from them kicking the West kicking Russia off the SWIFT banking system, which is basically just the thing that allows money to flow around the world.
Transactions, electronic transactions, right?
Yeah. The ripple effects of that could be massive. Like it could create a situation in which, like, if Russia is forced to, get off like the dollar as the reserve currency, like, is that going to create a alternative sphere? Like, are the Chinese going to be like, maybe we should just get together a few people and just like get off the dollar as the reserve currency? I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, these are the weird possibilities that could happen, given that it is such a direct confrontation between the West, largely, broadly speaking, and a major power like Russia. I mean, it's just absolutely wild.
Yeah, and we can get into this. There's a lot to get into, because I feel like this is legitimately an onion that needs to be peeled. Like, legitimately, all the layers that need to be considered, especially from our vantage point as American citizens. Because I don't think Americans generally spend a lot of time thinking about Vladimir Putin, right? Like, and who he is and what he cares about and what motivates him, right? And that's what I want to spend a little bit of time on, because I think we spent a good amount of time talking about just like, look, like this whole NATO alliance shit in Ukraine. First of all, there's a lot of great arguments that could be made that there was no use for NATO after the Soviet Union collapsed. It was just like, what's the point of this fucking entity now? Like, we don't have this big bad looming power that's gonna replace liberal capitalist democracy with authoritarianism, communism. Oh, it's so scary, Nando. Like, we don't got that no more. Like, Russia's just not that type of threat. They just not militarily. Like, they can't dominate the continent the way the Nazis tried to, right? Or the way the Nazis did straight up. Like, they just straight up
And
invaded.
could.
You know what I mean? And could, right? Like, invaded Poland and fucking conquered France. And like, yeah, like, Russia can't do that. Like, they don't have that capacity, right? They can't. So whatever. The NATO thing is legitimate to be like, what the fuck, guys? Like, there's just a certain level of getting punked and getting treated like some third-rate entity or fourth-rate entity that, like, you know, you can understand how some of these world leaders would be like, fuck that, we're standing up to these cats for once. They've been punking us for 30 fucking years now. All right, whatever. Yeah. Then you hear this shit about, you know, basically like that, and you don't know how legitimate this stuff is, right? But you hear about Putin, who's always basically fancied himself as a staunch anti-Soviet, like, you know, staunch anti-Stalinist, all of that, right? And basically, he fancies himself as part of the, like, czarist traditions of Russia. Like, he thinks he fancies himself to be like, you know, this not descended, but like one of the natural sort of outflows or outgrowths of the empire of Russia, right? Like, back when, you know, Russia had kings and queens and dynasties and shit. He's more loyal to that, and so his conception of Ukraine as this, like, place back when we had this great empire that was part of, you know, Mother Russia and the Russian Empire is like, so I got to go in there and do something. Like, this is insane shit, right? Like, could you imagine some I don't know, some president of France being like, yo, I'm going to get Louisiana back. It's like, no, you're not. Like, and of course, like, it's not the same because Louisiana isn't on the French border, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you hear these things about the types of ideologies that might be motivating this guy. And to me, that's scarier because it tracks with, like, this guy being a little bit unhinged and not being driven by logic or his own self-interest, and might have just be flying off the handle. He's ran the country with an iron fist for 22 fucking years now. He might be growing delusional, Nando.
Well, I heard a funny theory. Apparently, Putin is like a COVID nut. You know, he's like paranoid about COVID. You know, he's like one of these, like, you know, like double mask. You know, and like he makes, like, you know, he sits on these insanely long tables when he has a meeting, like 500 feet away from the person he's having a meeting with, because he doesn't want to catch COVID. And you know, maybe the COVID broke him. You know, maybe the 2 years of COVID, just being isolated there in the Kremlin, just kind of walking around his bathrobe. You know, freaking out about, like, any virus, you know, made him crazy. But, you know, it's interesting. I mean, it's worth noting, like you mentioned the whole NATO thing. It's worth noting that early on in Putin's reign, for lack of a better term, he tried to join NATO. This was confirmed by the former head of NATO at the time. This guy, a British guy named George Robertson, was the head of NATO from 1999 to 2003. Putin took over on Christmas Eve, I think, or New Year's Eve, like end of 1999, early, and you know, his first year in power was 2000. Early on in his reign, he was like, no, I'll join NATO. I'll be in a military alliance with the West. You know, that way you won't invade us, right? Like, it was basically a way to have a security alliance, and they said no. You know, they said no. And this is like you said, like the NATO doesn't really have a point post-Soviet Union. And this isn't like, this used to be a relatively mainstream topic of debate. Like, now it's like you're seen as like a far lefty if you say something like that. But, you know, I sent you this article by Ross Barkin, which I recommend.
Excellent article, by the way, on his Substack.
Yeah. And he writes about how he writes, quote, in 1997, George Kennan, who is like was former ambassador of the U.S. in Moscow during the height of the Cold War. He's the guy who invented containment as the policy. Like this guy is not like
He's
some
not some
like
limp wrist liberal. He's
he's
not.
not like some
He's a fucking
hippie.
hawk. He's a hawk.
Yeah. He invented containment. In 1997, George Kennan, at the architect of America's containment policy at the outset of the Cold War, warned that expanding NATO would, quote, inflame the nationalistic, anti-Western, and militaristic tendencies in Russian opinion, and impel Russian foreign policy in directions decidedly not to our liking. All predictions that have come to pass. William Perry, Bill Clinton's defense secretary from 1994 to 1997, again, not some hippie, blamed America's drive for a NATO expansion eastward for deteriorating relations in the 21st century. Quote, they were very uncomfortable about having NATO right up on their border, and they made a strong appeal for us not to go ahead with that, Perry said in 2016. Basically, the people I was arguing with when I tried to put the Russian point, the response that I got was really, who cares what they think? They're a third-rate power. And of course, that point of view got across to the Russians as well. That was when we started sliding down that path. So, the invasion of Ukraine is Putin's decision, and it was a huge escalation to the low boil conflict that has been brewing for many years. And don't get me wrong, like it's his decision to invade, it's on him. But this didn't come out of nowhere, right? That this is like the West has been poking the bear.
Yep.
For a while now.
Which again, and just so we can be clear, yes, Russia, Putin, he's a ghoul. They're the aggressors. It's fucked up because people need to hear this, or else you're just like, "Well, Russia do." Yeah. No, we're just saying the West is not blameless in this. Is all we're saying.
Yeah. No, and the question is now what happens next, and it's a really grim state of affairs, right? Because everyone's obsessed with the Ukrainian president Zelensky, and I understand why. I mean, it's pretty moving to see the president of a country in fatigues, in the rubble with his men standing on the front line, not like
and he looks good on camera. I'll give him that.
Well, he's a performer. He was the voice of Paddington Bear in Ukraine. Okay.
Wow.
He was a comedian. It's like as if someone compared it as if Joe Rogan was elected president. He was like their
right.
Joe Rogan.
Okay. I got you.
Which could happen.
Right.
Absolutely
Facts.
could happen. Yeah. And so he's a performer. He's a natural performer, and he's good on camera, and he understands the theatrics of the moment. And he's basically begging for a no-fly zone, which would mean basically the end of the world and the end of humanity, because a no-fly zone isn't like this force field that you just put up around a country and then planes can't fly in it.
You declare a no-fly zone, right, Nando? And if anybody dares fly over it, you shoot it down.
Yeah. With another fighter jet, which means a direct hot confrontation, as they say, between NATO, basically the United States, and Russia, two nuclear powers, something you never want to do. You never want to have a hot conflict between two nuclear powers. You can have a hot conflict between two non-nuclear powers, or you can have a hot conflict with a nuclear power and a non-nuclear power. At least it's going to suck, and a lot of people are going to die, but at least the world's not going to end. Imposing a no-fly zone would mean American jets confronting Russian jets and shooting them down. It would be a huge escalation of the conflict. The sad reality is that, Ukraine is it's not worth it's just not worth it.
It's not.
You know what I mean? You can't risk that. You just can't risk that. And it sucks to be a country on that sandwiched between these two giant powers that can't get along. But we can't sacrifice millions of lives or, a nuclear winter, a nuclear Holocaust over a conflict in Ukraine. That would just be insane. Cooler heads have to prevail. That means that there has to be some sort of diplomacy to find some sort of peaceful solution as quickly as possible.
Which also means that the sort of muscular posture that everybody's taking in the news, because let's face it, Joe Biden got 7 points point bump to his goddamn approval rating behind this Ukraine shit. Every fucking media outlet from right to left, center, whatever, is beating the drum of Russia. We got to take them down and confront them and blah, 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 blah. So our leaders are compelled to be like, shit, this is getting me cool points, all of that kind of stuff, which brings me to the next thing that I want to talk about, which I think our viewers are used to us doing, which is examining the discourse, Nando, within Western media, or the Western delivery machines of information to Westerners, which we can loosely call news outlets these days. It's been interesting to say the least. Before I dive in, I just want to give you guys one quick anecdote that'll let you know where we are with this Ukraine, Russia, NATO, US, China, whatever divide that we're at right now. I logged into OnlyFans last week to see that OnlyFans font is in the color of the Ukrainian flag right now. I swear to God, I'm not making this up, man. Fucking OnlyFans has taken up the cause of Ukraine. And basically, again, and I think Barkin does a great job in this piece of explaining, like, this is basically for liberals become like a Black Lives Matter, stop Asian hate, yada, yada. Yeah. One of these easy signifiers of, you know, I'm on the right side of history, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is, this shit ain't got nothing to do with taking down a statue or renaming a fucking street. Okay? This is World War III at the fucking that's on the line here, and it's a lot more serious than that. And so the sort of pom-pom waving knee jerk that you get from fucking liberals, of course, I feel like on the show we do a lot of like beating up on the liberals, but like we expect the fucking right-wing hawks to do what they do, to be talking about, let's go fucking kill Putin, let's assassinate him, let's do this, let's go crazy. Lindsey Graham literally said Russian citizens should rise up against Vladimir Putin and kill him. He's already advocated for this publicly on Twitter. This is a United States senator. I
would wonder what we would say if like a high Russian official was like, you know, someone should just murder Joe Biden.
But again, Nando, it's like there's this like liberal knee jerk of, we know who the bad guy is, so why don't we just go kill him? Which is so stupid.
It's a form of American chauvinism to think that we got to do something, or that we can do something, or we should do something. You know, the sad reality is that like intervention would probably make things worse. You know, 100%. This is something that Bessner talks about a lot. Like, there's this fantasy of the good intervention, like that we just do. Oh, like the intervention is fine if we did it the right way. We just always do it the wrong way. And it's like, we just got to do it the right way. It's like, no, that's not how that works. There's only the way you do it, and it's bad. You know, like we just got to look at the actual interventions, not some fantasy intervention that we can conjure up in our minds. Like you go to war with the military machine you got, and we got the American military machine, and we've seen its track record. It's just death and destruction and nothing to really show for it. But yeah, it is interesting to see, you know, who people rally behind. And what lives matter, right? Speaking of Black Lives Matter, because nationalism a hell of a drug was. You know, when the bad boy Putin is doing the killing, we are very concerned about Ukraine, a country that like 99.999% of people, like, you know, certainly couldn't identify on a map, but also like had never thought about before in their lives. But like, do the Yemen lives matter of the genocide that we're aiding and perpetrating on behalf of the Saudis? Do those lives matter?
What the Saudis doing is so horrific and abhorrent and just like ghoulish. It's beyond words, right? And
they're on our team.
Like before I became just completely disgusted and sick of Barack Obama. Just because he's just like one of the worst capitalist shills in the history of life. The first blight to me on his record was him aiding and abetting the Saudis in Yemen.
Yeah.
That was the first sign for me where I was like, damn, Barry, like, this is crap. Like, and there's no obvious reason as to why we should be doing this. Let the Saudis do what they gotta fucking do in their backyard. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do it on your fucking own. We don't gotta help you do this horrible shit. And the fact that we aided and abetted the Saudis in bombing the shit out of people, regular people in Yemen, is just so fucked up, right? Like that was to me the first blight on Obama's record for me before you realize that, you know, he was some Wall Street crony who basically helped these motherfuckers shovel more of our money into their own pockets. That was the number one for me, and nobody gave a fuck. And I know for a fact, and especially not no damn liberals. Liberals could not give a fuck what was happening to the people in Yemen. And this is not whataboutism at all. It's just we should.
It's Russian propaganda. You're doing Russian propaganda, Wos.
Come on, give me a fucking break, man. And again, like, and this is not to sound fucked up, like, what do we have to do with Ukraine as Americans? Like, as America, what do we have to do with that? Like, what is our like natural allegiance to the country of Ukraine? Somebody has to explain this to me. Why we need to be gung-ho about like protecting them from Russia. Like I just don't understand it. And again, this is the country that invaded Afghanistan under shaky under shaky ass pretenses, and Iraq was just straight up a fraud perpetuated, on the American people.
No, I mean, Ukraine, the sad reality is that what Ukraine means to America and American foreign policy leaders, the people who like make these decisions, is they're just a pawn in a chessboard, that we've straight up used because of our insane antipathy towards Russia. That goes back decades. Well, it goes back, to the Soviet Union, really. That we used Ukraine because it shares such a large border with Russia, especially in the most important part of Russia. I think like 80% of Russians live kind of in the area around Ukraine, right? We just use them as pawns on a chessboard, like for our own fucking sadistic purposes. We've been courting them for years, for decades. We've been kind of hyping them up, telling them like, yeah, well, we got your back, don't worry, like NATO, you're gonna join and it's gonna be great and blah blah blah. And they're like, okay, great, the Americans got our back. And then no, like that's the sad reality. It's like as soon as like Putin rejiggered the chessboard, we're just like, no, too bad. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing it in the first place. Like, I mean, the right move is to stand down, really, like,
mind our fucking business. But also, and again, like, if we were gonna do anything, what we should be stepping in to do is being like, yo, Russia, how do we get you guys to stop, do a ceasefire, get you guys out of there, let them poor people in that country be. How do we step in to make that a reality? How do we do that? How do we use our influence and what we got to make that something you just stop doing? Because this is crazy.
I suspect at this point, what they would need is a written treaty between the United States or NATO and Russia that guarantees that Ukraine will never join NATO, that Ukraine is non-aligned, which is not,
who cares?
Which is like, so is Finland, and so is like a bunch of other countries. Like they're just like non-aligned. Like they don't
be in NATO or down with Russia.
Right. That's one thing. I mean, the thornier question will be like, what happens with the Donbass, that the region kind of all the way to the east of Ukraine, and that, Russia kind of sees as its own or whatever. And like, whether they actually want to govern the Donbass. Like I have my doubts, I've, listening to Derek Davison, he describes the Donbass as kind of like the Rust Belt in America that was formerly the industrial hub of Ukraine, but like all industrial centers in the West, it's become like a hollowed out, some like abandoned factories and all the social ills that kind of go along with that. But I mean, it's just that's what could have stopped the war in the beginning, like a written declaration that Ukraine would not join NATO. That was always a hard red line for Putin, and like dangling that in front of Ukraine and Ukraine dangling it right back was like that was a provocation. Whether it was justified or not, in the end, it was a provocation. And it remains to be seen whether that something like that, just a deal that guaranteed the neutrality of Ukraine would be enough. I mean, it probably would have been enough to stop this, or to stop it from happening in the beginning, but I don't know about now. I mean, but something like that, like cooler heads have to prevail. Like they have to talk and be like, okay, like what do you want? Like, what do you guys want? Like, you guys don't want to occupy this country. Come on. It's so big. Like Ukraine is huge, and like occupying a country that don't want you there, like that's
not gonna work. And
blood,
again,
treasure.
and that's what folks need to realize. Like the Afghanistan example is an important one. Obviously, it's not apples to apples, but that's what these guys are up against. Like those folks clearly, as we've seen from the news accounts, these people, the vast majority, do not want Russia's thumb on the scale of their lives. They don't want it, and they're willing to fight. And so it's not going to be one of those things where Russian tanks just roll through and they're greeted as liberators, as my man Donald Rumsfeld once said. That's not what the case. That's not what the case will be. Like these dudes will be entrenched in guerrilla warfare for years and years and years to come. So, part of it is just like if you just take a realpolitik view of this and you just be like, fuck them. Let the Russians go kill themselves. I mean, it's going to suck for these Ukrainian citizens, but just like every other one of our adversaries, as they watched us stub our toe constantly in Afghanistan and Iraq, like that's what you can just sit back and be like, this shit ain't going to end well for them. However, if you fancy yourselves to be like the global peacekeepers, allegedly, man, y'all need to get these fools in a room and be like, yo, what's it going to take? And again, I need people to understand this too. When you're watching the news and you're hearing these guys talk about Hitler, it's two things. It's one, this is not Nazi Germany. They like, I need to stress this to y'all. They cannot take over Europe. They don't have it. They don't have the capacity. They can't do it. They don't have the resources. They don't have the manpower. They cannot take over Europe. So once you hear people on the news, oh, if we back down and we do appeasement, this is Neville Chamberlain part 2. This is fantasy shit that these cocksuckers are talking about. And these are people who have the cushiest lives ever. And for whatever reason, they feel like they need a new Hitler in their life or else their life isn't complete. So once you hear these people say that, just know that they're full of shit. However, when you hear some of these hawks talking their shit about maybe we do need to engage these guys, just know this isn't Saddam's regime. This ain't Kosovo. This ain't Rwanda. This ain't some of the, you know what I mean? Like this ain't Kuwait. This ain't some of the nice little wars this ain't Grenada. This ain't what we was doing in South America or Central America. Like this is none of that. If we directly engage with this country, it will be fucking horrific. The consequences will be absolutely horrific. It would be terrible. So two things can be true at once, right? Like Putin and the sort of arms at the ready over there can cause a severe amount of damage to a lot of people, millions upon millions of people, tens of millions possibly being affected by it, while also the motherfucker ain't taking over the planet. It's just not,
I mean, when Hitler was coming to power, like was building up his power, like the German economy was one of the most powerful economies in Europe. The Russian economy is smaller than Italy's today.
That's
just
insane.
To give you an example. And then the other big difference, which is like probably the biggest difference, like it is true that Hitler probably could have, had he not invaded Russia, he probably could have just occupied all of Western Europe, because just technologically at the time that was kind of possible. These days with nuclear weapons, the big thing that didn't exist back then, That's not happening.
You're
This
just
is
gonna
not
get
happening.
smoked.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
it.
happening. It's a different type of thing. So like it changes the calculus on all sides, but even on the quote unquote appeasement front, like yeah, like you got to make the calculation: is Ukraine worth nuclear holocaust? And the answer is probably no.
Yeah,
What is worth nuclear holocaust?
right.
Well, almost
Absolutely
nothing.
not Ukraine. As cold and
Yeah,
callous as that may sound, absolutely not Ukraine. And all these cocksuckers who call themselves liberal and enlightened and all of that progressive and all that dumb shit, who's really pushing this war drum, who's really
they
talking
love
about
it. They
let's
love
take
it.
this aggressive posture to save the poor Ukrainians from Hitler Part Two. Like, just shut the fuck up already. Like, it's absurd, And again, I'm not telling y'all to not like. If you have the ability to financially support some Ukrainians, and you feel like it, and these people are being put upon. There's no two ways about it. Like, those people are being put upon. They are being fucking unduly, aggressed.
Yeah.
There's no denying that, and they deserve support and all of that. But when it comes to, and Nando beautifully referenced what Danny always talks about, like, there's only one US war machine. There isn't this, like, like this really nimble machine that could go into Ukraine and, like, just rat fuck the Ukrainian people's way out of the Russian grasp. Like, that don't exist. All we got is big ass weapons, and that's how we war. We can't do anything else. There are no other options if we involve our war machine.
Yeah. Oh, it's like I'm not trying to, there's just a grim situation. It's just a
Yeah.
grim situation with a lot of grim outcomes, like there's not a lot of great outcomes and the potential, I mean, okay, like obviously nuclear war is something that we don't want to happen, but there's so many other things that are hard to foresee, I mean, it's get get a load of how desperate President Brandon was that they're trying to do a treaty with Venezuela to buy oil from them. Venezuela, I feel like Venezuela is like in the WWE. It's like, oh my god, I hear the Venezuela music, and the guy's like coming out with
Oh
the
my
chair.
god!
Like it's
Again,
like we're like all the bad shit we've been doing in Venezuela, like and all like
all the
the
shit we've
horrible,
talked about that country,
yeah. It's like wait,
like
no,
when it
it's gone.
comes to like the foreign policy apparatus of America under basically all of the regimes of the past 20 something years have been so antagonistic, obviously, especially in the Chavez years, because he had the nerve to nationalize the country's only and biggest export. This guy's spreading craziness. He's giving the country's resources to empower its people. What the fuck? We can't have that shit. Americans
No.
might think that's something we should be doing.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, they're signing the treaty with Venezuela to buy their oil. The Venezuelans are like, hell yeah, baby. It's just like that's how. But I mean, we're joking about it, but like that's. I mean, I read that in Germany in the past year, as a result of the COVID and all the supply chain crises and all that stuff, like their gas prices went up 10 times. Like they could go up like another 10 times.
That's
Now
crazy.
without the Russian, the Russian pipelines pumping oil in there, and it's like I mean, think about what that does to the politics of a country. If like, we're complaining about like $7 a gallon, which I've seen in a few places here. Like imagine like $100 a gallon,
Oh my
you
god.
know?
Oh my god. And and just to, and I know that like foreign policy isn't your or either of our expertise, but I was wondering, like, is the Biden regime like equipped to handle this diplomatically in the back channels? Are they, do we think they can do this?
I mean, my general opinion of them is pretty low,
Mm,
especially given their behavior in the run up to this, Um, I have been it does seem like there was a clip that went around that just made me fucking go crazy where Chuck Todd was interviewing Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. And like Chuck Todd was like essentially pushing him to do a no fly zone. you know, like shaming him for like taking the no-fly zone off the table. He's like, why would you take it off the table? Like, leave it on the table. Like, make Putin think like the no-fly zone is possible. And like Blinken's like, no, that's insane. Like, we're not gonna do the fucking no-fly zone. Okay, like we're not gonna do it. You know, and that was like heartwarming in a way, or like made me feel calmer that like the Secretary of State was standing up to this kind of
Wait, hold
cretinous
on. Chuck
American.
Todd was saying that taking no fly zone off the table
Oh
was
yeah,
weak.
I'll send the clip
Oh
over to
my
Sean. Maybe you can
god,
clip it in. But
fucking
like, yeah, and
idiot.
like Blinken was like, "Yo, dude, chill out. We don't want to get a hot war with Russia." And so like, leave it on fly zone. Leave it on fly zone on the table. You know.
Right, and again, this is Chuck Todd, nice and comfortable,
Yeah.
rich as fucking hell
Yeah.
in DC or New York, wherever the fuck he lives.
Yeah.
And it's just like, come on, give me a freaking break.
Why rule out the no-fly zone? Why not make Putin think it's possible?
First, again, my admiration for President Zelensky has no bounds. And if I were in his shoes, I'd be asking and looking for everything possible from everyone in every place around the world. And as I said, what we've already done is extraordinary. And just to remind people, over the past year alone, from the United States alone, more than $1 billion in security assistance, lethal defensive weapons that are being put to very effective service by Ukrainians now in defense of their country, and other measures that we're looking at going forward. Just in the last week alone, Chuck, we have delivered more than $200 million worth of security assistance into the hands of Ukrainians. So all of that is ongoing, all of that's continuing. The President's been very clear about one thing all along as well, which is we're not going to put the United States in direct conflict with Russia, not have American planes flying against Russian planes, or our soldiers on the ground in Ukraine, because for everything we're doing for Ukraine, the President also has a responsibility to not get us into a direct conflict, a direct war with Russia, a nuclear power, and risk a war that expands even beyond Ukraine to Europe. That's clearly not our interest. What we're trying to do is end this war in Ukraine, not start a larger one.
Let me ask you this.
And by the way, keep in mind what keep in mind what a no-fly zone. Just so people understand too, what a no-fly zone means. It means that if you declare a space no-fly and a Russian plane flies through it, it means we have to shoot it down.
Yeah. No, they love the war. The media loves the war. They like love it. It just that's the bloodlust of any war just like drives me crazy. Watching the media, just they fucking love it. They just fucking love it. And like, there's so many people who like fancy themselves like playing a game of Risk, you know, with Winston Churchill and Comrade Stalin on one side.
And these are dudes who've never even been in a fist fight at a bar.
No,
okay?
No.
Like most of these cats ain't never witnessed any real level, any even like I'm talking about starter pack level of violence.
Yeah.
Okay. And these dudes are advocating for some of the most horrific shit, violence to be visited upon people. And again, this shit ain't gonna hit DC. It's not going to hit his Georgetown neighborhood. So what the fuck does he care? It's absurd, man. These people are just so disgusting.
Yeah. No. I guess I mean, my message to anyone in the audience is like, watching something horrible happen in the world, your instinct is like, we got to do something. And the sad reality is that horrible shit happens in the world. Often it's, at the hands of our government, but often it's not. And the sad reality is that like we can't really do much, and restraint is the best way forward, or really our only hope, because the instinct to do something, even if comes from a good place, and I'm sure everyone in the audience comes from a good place, people in the highest echelons of American power does not come from a good place, but there is sometimes where those two things come together, in which like we see something horrible and we're like, we got to stop this, and it's like, you've got to consider the consequences. When the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, also probably a totally unjustified invasion, we armed and trained something called the Mujahideen. And you know who was one of those guys? Our good friend of the pod, Osama bin Laden.
Facts.
So You know, that's an unforeseen circumstance at the time. Like no one thought that was going to happen, but it does. It just has a funny way of what they call blowback. It's like we wanted to do something. We wanted to help the Afghans. We gave them weapons. We trained them, gave them money. And one of those guys was Osama bin Laden, and we all know how that ended up. So, yeah, that's the sad reality is that our instinct to do something can often get us into more trouble than doing nothing.
All right, well, that's our show for today. We will see you guys next week. Of course, make sure you're checking out all the other Count the Dings offerings. The Friday mailbag, Cinephobe, Pack Your Knives is back, folks. So be checking that out with Tom Habistro and Kevin Arnovitz, where they review Top Chef. Yeah, man, make sure you like and subscribe everything we're doing on YouTube. And of course, same thing we're doing on all the podcast platforms. Become a Patreon on patreon.com/Count the Dings. And it's only going to cost you a cup of coffee per month. So please do that to be supporting what we doing over here. I'm Big Wos. That's Nando Vila. We out of here. Peace.